What's up, everyone? So for today's video, I'm basically going to be filming kind of like a review video and basically kind of explaining like how I felt about the road trip vacation, and I'm also going to be kind of like going over some of my favorite parts of this vacation, some of my least favorite parts, good things and bad things that happened. I'm also going to be comparing the road trip vacation that I went on this year to like vacations I went on in the past, like last year's Smoky Mountains vacation mainly. So basically, the first thing I'm going to be doing for today's video, I'm going to be kind of explaining things I liked more about each vacation. The first major thing I liked more about the Smoky Mountains vacation than I did with the road trip is whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains last year, I ended up doing way more hiking. We weren't having to like drive as far like each day, and we were just like settled in one national park. So it gave us more opportunity to do more hiking trails, and I would like be doing multiple different hikes in one day whenever I was at the Smoky Mountains. And with this vacation, I felt like I didn't get quite as much hiking in. The longest trail I ended up doing on this vacation was whenever I went to Mount Rainier, which was like about 3.5 miles, which is a pretty decent sized trail. But every other trail that I got to do on this vacation, besides that one, was like only half a mile at the most. So this vacation didn't really give me much opportunity to like do hiking compared to like Smoky Mountains last year's. Another thing that I liked more about last year's Smoky Mountains vacation than this trip was whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains last year, I ended up like seeing black bears like 4 days in a row, which doesn't really happen for a lot of people, and it's already like really rare enough to see like a black bear like once in your life whenever you go to the Smoky Mountains, because like our past Smoky Mountains trips, we didn't see like a single black bear, and some people like go their entire life without getting to see a black bear in person. So I thought it was like really incredible that we got to see black bears for like 4 days straight. Also, whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains last year, we were able to like do a lot more stuff, and not just like hiking related, but we also like got to explore like Gatlinburg and got to go to the island and all that, and got to do some in-town stuff along with like hiking in Smoky Mountains, and got to like do zip lining and tubing and all that. So we were just able to do a lot more stuff whenever we went to Smoky Mountains last year. Whenever I went to Smoky Mountains last year, I had a lot easier time waking up early and leaving early for places than I did with this vacation. And the weird thing is, whenever we went to Smoky Mountains, we were like in the Eastern time zone. And on this vacation, we were in the Pacific time zone a lot, sometimes the Mountain time zone, which basically like 8 o'clock Pacific time would be equivalent to 11 o'clock Eastern time, and like going 2 hours back in time instead of like an hour ahead. Even with that, I still had a lot easier time waking up for the Smoky Mountains and leaving earlier for places on that vacation than I did on this trip. And I think part of the reason that happened was there was like one night, the night after Yellowstone, that we couldn't find like a motel to stay at, so we had to like kind of drive in the car like all night, and that definitely disrupted my sleep schedule. I had a harder time like fixing my sleep schedule from this vacation than whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains. Like, this vacation definitely ruined my sleep schedule a lot more. Whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains last year, it gave me like more opportunity to like film more videos in a shorter amount of time. I was able to film like 14 to 15 different videos at the Smoky Mountains in like just an 8-day time period. I was basically at the Smoky Mountains from July 20th to July 28th last year. And on this road trip, we were there from like July 20th through like August 3rd. And there was like a lot of driving days, so that gave me like less opportunity to film videos. And actually, with like this road trip, I ended up filming less videos than I did at the Smoky Mountains, despite like being on this trip a week longer than the Smoky Mountains. So that's another thing I liked more about the Smoky Mountains. The last major thing I liked more about Smoky Mountains and with this trip is whenever we went to the Smoky Mountains, we only had to like stay in like 2 different places the entire trip, versus like this vacation, we were like moving from place to place almost every single night. There were like 2 times that we stayed in the same like place for like a couple days, like whenever we went to Colorado and whenever we were like in Seattle. Other than that, we were like moving from place to place like every single day. And also the rental house that we stayed at the Smoky Mountains was just a really nice place, and we got a good deal on it, and that's pretty hard to beat. So we ended up like staying in nicer places while at the Smoky Mountains than we did on this vacation. We were like able to settle in more at the Smoky Mountains compared to this vacation. So those were basically the things I liked more about the Smoky Mountains. So now I'm going to be moving on to things I liked more about this vacation compared to Smoky Mountains. So the first thing that I liked more about this vacation compared to the Smoky Mountains is I was able to visit a lot more new states on this vacation than whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains. Basically, whenever I went to the Smoky Mountains, I ended up visiting like 6 states in total. I ended up going through Illinois on the way there, I also ended up going through Indiana on the way because we ended up taking a different route to Smoky Mountains on the way there. So we did pass through Indiana, and we also like went through Kentucky and Tennessee and got to spend a couple nights in North Carolina too whenever we stayed at Jellystone. So ended up like visiting 5 states besides Missouri on that vacation. And those were like 5 states I've already been to before, so they weren't really like new states whenever we went on that vacation. Whenever I went on this vacation, I ended up visiting like over 10 new states. I think like maybe 12 new states total. And got to see Washington and Oregon for the first time. Got to like see more of the west side of the US, so it gave us like new experiences and getting to like see places that I've never really seen before. This vacation allowed me to see the west for like the first time. And not just like Disneyland and Los Angeles like whenever I was 9 years old, but seeing more of the west side of the US, so that was one thing I did like more about this vacation. Another thing I liked more about this vacation in Smoky Mountains is this vacation gave us like more variety, and we weren't just like staying in the mountains the entire time. We got to like have some experience with the mountains whenever we went to Mount Rainier and Rocky Mountain National Park. We also got to have like a beach day in Oregon, and I got to see the Pacific Ocean for the first time, getting to see a lighthouse and all that, so kind of like a little bit of a beach day as well. I ended up getting to like see Seattle for the first time and walk around there, and I also ended up seeing Portland as well and walked around there. And I even saw Salt Lake City for the first time, even though I didn't really walk around there that much. I got to like drive around Salt Lake City, so I got to have experience walking around new cities, got to like have a beach day, and also have some mountains. I ended up going twice as high in elevation on this vacation than whenever I went to the highest point, the Smoky Mountains last year, which was at Clingman's Dome, which is 6,600 feet. And the highest I went on this vacation was whenever I went to Pikes Peak and was over 14,000 feet in elevation. So another thing I liked more about this vacation is whenever I went on this vacation, I ended up getting a lot more souvenirs. I did end up getting a souvenir at Smoky Mountains before, like the first time that I went in 2017. I got like a black tank top there. But whenever I went last year, I didn't really get any souvenirs from there. But on this vacation, I ended up getting like a lot of new hats and beanies. I'm actually wearing a hat right now, Rocky Mountains. I even ended up getting a t-shirt at Yellowstone as well, so this vacation, I ended up getting a lot of new souvenirs versus Smoky Mountains. I didn't really get any souvenirs from there last year. And the last thing I liked more about this vacation than the Smoky Mountains is this vacation was a week longer than the Smoky Mountains vacation, so I ended up getting to have like more days making memories on this trip versus the Smoky Mountains. And I also like got to extend the vacation a little bit whenever I went to Colorado and stayed the extra night in Colorado. So it was like more days to get away from home and work and all that. And even on the days I was like driving a lot, I still got to like have some experiences those days as well. Got to enjoy being away from home for a longer amount of time. So that was the last major thing I liked more about this vacation. So now I'm going to be moving on and kind of explaining like what some of my favorite parts on this vacation were, like some of my favorite experiences on this trip. So some of my favorite parts on this vacation were getting to see Yellowstone for the first time and seeing the Old Faithful erupt, and like also seeing another place at Yellowstone. Ended up having really good timing whenever I went to the Old Faithful, because the Old Faithful usually erupts like every hour and a half to like 2 hours, and the Old Faithful ended up like exploding like 15 minutes after we got there, which is like really good timing. It was a really good experience there, and also the other place that we saw at Yellowstone was really cool, and seeing the town of West Yellowstone was really nice as well. Ended up like being really neat town walking through, so that was like the first thing that I really liked on this trip. Another one of my favorite parts on this trip was seeing Mount Rainier and doing the hike there. I ended up like walking most of the trail. I didn't make it like all the way on the trail, but I ended up like doing most of the trail and made it most of the way up there and got to walk around snow and all that, which made it a really cool experience there. I also really like seeing Multnomah Falls, and I would have to say it's more beautiful than any of the waterfalls that I saw at Smoky Mountains, and just really enjoyed getting to see a waterfall that was over 600 feet in length and just was like absolutely beautiful, and the scenery around that area was beautiful as well. I also really enjoyed like getting to see the Pacific Ocean for the first time and getting to like touch the Pacific Ocean as well, and just the overall experience that day whenever I went to the beach. And it was honestly probably the most beautiful beach that I've ever been to in my life. I would say it's even more beautiful than like Gulf Shores and Cocoa Beach, which were some beaches I went to the past. And the last major thing that I really liked on this trip was like seeing Colorado for the first time and getting to like see the Rocky Mountains, drive through Rocky Mountain National Park. Also got to experience hot springs for the first time in Colorado and had a really relaxing night, like just enjoying a bunch of different hot springs. I also really enjoyed seeing Pikes Peak and being over 14,000 feet in elevation. So that's the last major thing that I would say was like one of my favorite experiences on this trip. So now I'm going to be kind of going over some of my least favorite parts of the vacation and some things I didn't really like much on this trip. So the first major thing that I didn't really like from this vacation was that my sleep schedule ended up like getting messed up from the one night that we couldn't find like a motel after Yellowstone. Also because you're like adjusted to the Pacific time zone. It was really hard getting adjusted and getting back to my normal sleep schedule after the vacation. So I would have to say that was like one of my least favorite parts on this vacation. I just also didn't really like the night that we couldn't find like a motel in general because sleeping in the car was not fun at all, and I only got 3 hours of sleep, maybe even a little bit less than that, and I didn't get like proper sleep either because I kept waking up like every 30 minutes and I was just like grumpy the next day. Another one of my least favorite parts about this vacation is like packing up like every single morning from each of the motels and having to like hit the road right away and all that. Since I'm like not really used to doing road trip type vacations and I'm more used to like vacations where you kind of settle in one place for a week, that was kind of rough on me. It was like challenging packing and unpacking like from hotel to hotel and making sure I didn't leave anything behind. So that did kind of like put a little bit of stress on me at times. And the last thing that I would say was kind of like one of my least favorite parts about this trip is some of the drives that we did were like very tiring and boring at times. Like whenever like driving home through Kansas, that was pretty boring, and Nevada was a little bit boring at times too, but I would say it was more interesting than Kansas. But there were some really good drives on this trip as well. Like whenever like driving through Oregon and the scenery that we got to see, like when we were driving on that like coastal highway, that was really scenic. And also the drive from Rocky Mountains to Pikes Peak was really beautiful as well. So there were some good drives, but a lot of the drives could get like really boring and tiring and all that. So that was another one of my least favorite parts about this trip. So if I had to like pick like my absolute favorite day on this vacation that I liked more than any other day on the trip, I would have to say it's like a toss up between the Sunday that we were in Colorado or the day that we ended up like going to the beach in Oregon. It's really hard to say because both of those days were really amazing. The thing that I liked a lot about the Sunday that we were in Colorado, that was the day that we ended up like seeing Rocky Mountain National Park and got to like drive through there. Ended up like seeing a lot of nice beauty in Rocky Mountain National Park and got to see a moose and all that, which was really cool. And I also got some really clear views from like 12,000 feet in elevation that day. And then later that night, we got to enjoy the hot springs for the first time, and just like the overall day in general was like really peaceful because we were like settled in at a place for an entire day, didn't have to like pack any of our stuff that morning, just got to relax and enjoy the day. That day was just really amazing for me. I also really liked the beach day as well because I ended up getting to touch the Pacific Ocean for the first time and got to see a lighthouse in person for the first time. The beach was just really beautiful overall, and the sunset that I got at the lighthouse was really amazing too. So it's really hard to say. Both of those days were definitely some of my favorites, and it's really hard to choose which day I liked more because I really did like both those days. I would have to say those 2 days were my absolute favorites on this vacation. So my least favorite day on this vacation, I would definitely have to say it would be the day like after the one night that I didn't get much sleep and had to sleep in the car and all that, because I was just like grumpy the entire day. I didn't have energy. I didn't have motivation to want to do anything. We were like driving through Montana all night, and then we still had like drive through Washington until like maybe 2 in the afternoon that day. So we were still kind of driving quite a bit, and the rest of the day I basically just sat around the hotel for the entire night. I did not want to do anything, and I just felt like crap the entire day. So I would definitely say that was my least favorite day on this vacation. Another day that I didn't really like either was the day that we were like getting back home and all that. We were like kind of like drive through Kansas for like 6 hours, and we also ended up having to drive through Missouri for another 3.5 hours after Kansas. So basically the realization that the vacation's over and basically the only thing that we were doing that day was just trying to make it home, and just made it for like a tiring day and just kind of felt depressing, to be honest. So I don't even know if I would consider that a vacation day, to be honest, because pretty much that day we were just like driving back home. But to be fair, we were still like on the road and we were like still out of town, so I guess it would count as a vacation day. So that was another one of my least favorite days on the trip. So out of all the states that I got to see on this vacation, like out of the new states that I got to see, I would have to say my favorite state that I saw was Oregon for sure, because Oregon, I got to see like the Pacific Ocean for the first time and got to see that really nice beach and all that. I also ended up seeing Crater Lake while I was in Oregon, got to see 2 beautiful waterfalls and all that. And just like the overall scenery around Oregon was just like really beautiful, and definitely would say it's one of the most beautiful states I've ever been to in my life. I would also say Colorado's up there too, because I ended up like enjoying the experience in Colorado on this vacation. I would definitely say that was my second favorite state that I've been to on this vacation. My least favorite state that I've been to on this vacation, I would say, was Iowa, because it smelled pretty bad for a lot of the time that we were in Iowa, and there's like even one point where it just like smelled super bad. I ended up putting a face mask on, like kind of help with the smell and all that. It was also just a boring state to drive through as well, and there wasn't really much interesting in Iowa, at least like the part that we were driving through, which was like the west side of Iowa. I also wasn't really a big fan of Kansas, like the new part of Kansas that we saw. Like there's like pretty much nothing but farmland when we were driving through Kansas, and there didn't seem like there was like much to do and all that. It just seemed like a really boring state. And honestly, I have to say I like Missouri a lot more than both Iowa and Kansas, because like with Missouri, there is some good stuff in Missouri, and Kansas and Iowa seemed like there was like almost nothing. It does make me appreciate Missouri a lot more after driving through states like that. So I would say Iowa was definitely my least favorite state that I went to out of like any new state that I've been to. Overall, if I had to like say if I liked this vacation more or last year's Smoky Mountains vacation, I would have to say Smoky Mountains was just a little bit better last year, because getting to like see black bears 4 days in a row, getting to see 12 different waterfalls, getting to do all the hikes that I was able to do, getting a good deal on the rental house, and like only paying half the price that it would normally cost last year because of not many people traveling and all that. Getting to like do zip lining, tubing, and find like miniature cliff jumps while at the Smoky Mountains, and just like having all of that happen just like seemed like really hard to beat, because I feel like having all that happen on one vacation is like extremely lucky and all that. So that will always like make last year's Smoky Mountains trip memorable to me, and I don't know if there's ever going to be a vacation that will truly beat that vacation, because that was just like the luckiest we've ever gone with a vacation. So if I were to like have to choose one, I would choose the Smoky Mountains vacation last year. So this is about all I'm going to be doing for today's video. So I hope you enjoy like all the vacation videos I filmed this year, and like all the footage I got while driving and at all the places and all that. Even though this vacation did have like some rough parts about it, I would definitely do another road trip vacation in the future, because even with like there being tough moments at times, it's definitely worth it to like get to see new places, and road trips are a good way to like visit many states and all that. And yeah, it's not going to be like easy all the time, and there's going to be like rough moments on each trip. That happens like with any vacation. Despite like all the horror things that did happen on this vacation, I would definitely do another road trip vacation again. I might be like doing another road trip vacation next year. I don't know for sure yet, but if I were to like do one, I might like see the Grand Canyon and do like a Southwest road trip and all that. So subscribe and keep my post notifications on to see what we do next. I'm also like planning on going back to Kincaid Lake a couple more times this summer, and I'm also going to be visiting a lot more places in Southern Illinois and all that. So stay tuned for that. And without further ado, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.